Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Serving Nerve, the show where I basically do whatever I want, but today we're going to be cooking whatever we want. Yes, sirree, Bob. You know, I mentioned in the last video, or maybe a video before that, or a video before that, on how much I love pie. And I love pie. You know, I think you can tell. Sometimes I'm kind of a fat ass. And when it comes to pie, I'm morbidly obese. I can eat that stuff all day. So today we're going to be making a pie. It's going to be a dairy-free pie because I don't eat dairy. But you can do it basically with just a butter replacement or regular butter. It's completely up to you. It does use eggs. You can always just not use the egg because it only is for egg wash at the end. But outside of all of those variables, it's going to be about a 7 to 8 ingredient pie. And unlike people on the internet who say that something is going to be X ingredients, X amount of ingredients, this is actually going to be X amount of ingredients. And while I do this video, I'm just going to be sweating profusely and talking about my antics that I've recently endeavored to do. And the free bottle of wine that I won from work. Heyo! Score. Yeah, we'll talk about it all today. I'll yap about some stuff, whatever. Then we'll go on whatever tangent. You already know how I operate on the channel, so let's just get started. I hope you can hear me alright. I don't really have too much set up for myself. I do have the apples, which is all that matters. Out of everything you could avoid having in an apple pie, the apples are not one of them. So, I have a mixture of, like, Granny Smith, some red motherfuckers, I don't know what kind they're. So I have a mix of apples here. Some are Granny Smith, some are whatever. And we're just gonna peel them. And so, yeah, I'm basically gonna tell you guys about what I did at work and how I got a free bottle of wine that is at retail almost $250. That is obviously not the actual bottle price. I'd say it's more like $100. But hey, I won myself a free bottle of wine from one of my managers who was doing a wine contest. So basically, to win this wine, you have to sell as much wine as possible and exceed every other server in the wake of wine sales. And this is Easter, my dudes. It is gonna be dead. We had like nothing for covers. Maybe 120 people total. I only had like 6 tables for the whole night, and I managed to sell 3 bottles of wine to 3 different tables. So technically, 50% of my tables I talked into getting bottles of wine, which was an absolute pleasantry. I'm actually pleasantly surprised from such. Did not think it would happen, but it is my favorite wine that I won, so I was like, I really want to win this bottle. I really want this bottle. There's no way I'm going to be able to afford it on my own dollar, and even if I could, I probably wouldn't want to, because Trader Joe's wine's way cheaper. Oops, there goes apples. And then just also way more, like, readily available, and also just as good most of the time. So yeah, I basically sold, like, 3 bottles of wine, one being a $110 bottle of wine, one being a $100 bottle of wine, and the other being like a $56 bottle of wine. And I did go head-to-head with my closer, who also sold 3 bottles of wine, 2 $100 bottles to one table, and then also a $70 bottle to another table that came out after I was cut. Now, this is the thing. When you get cut, usually that will initiate the end of the contest, but also my manager had just made it a time-oriented contest, so it was basically like, hey, you know what? By 9 o'clock, whoever sells the most wine wins. And see, this is the thing. It was going to be like we were going to rock, paper, scissors at the end for it, but she just let me have it because she knows that I love that wine. So I'm going to treat her to sushi or something as a result of her kindness, because she could have argued for that bottle, but I don't think she cared as much because she was also making fat stacks, causing heart attacks from how much good money she was pulling in. And then there was me, who still made really decent money, to be completely honest. I only got undertipped by like 1 table. Everything else was super chill, did not have anything to complain about. But also, I have this other coworker who I do not like at all. I absolutely detest him in every capacity, and it's mainly because he's kind of like a jerk. He keeps on trying to eat the food that I'm packing to go for guests, which is a big no-no. And now we've started getting bad reviews that might have something to do with him, but maybe not, pertaining to certain things not being packed up to go. But I don't actually know. But I just don't like him. He also switched the side work that we had to do, but I was already doing the side work I was designated, and then he switched it and wouldn't change it. And it wasn't even his responsibility to do the chart, so basically I ended up doing double the side work, and yeah, not cool. Not cool. I did his side work basically for him. I was not playing, I was not having it, and I was not pleased. Outside of that, though, very happy that I won that wine. Did not think I would. Did not expect such. The whole night, I was like, I want to win this stuff. Super want to win it. Really want it bad. Yada, yada, yada. But I won it, so I win. Heck yeah. It was a great Easter. I worked all Easter. I didn't actually have anything I did with family or anything like that. Most of the family is in Virginia at the moment. My older sister I hung out with the day before for a nice little barbecue, but didn't hang out with her the day of because I did have to work. And I'm glad that I went into work in a really positive mindset, shilled a couple of bottles, made some good tips, and then went home and, yeah, ate some spaghetti. It was fantastic. It was a really nice night. Tomorrow I have a friend coming over, so this pie will be for our antics and endeavors. I love pie, like I said. I've never made Granny Smith apples into a pie. Usually I'll just do, like, Red Delicious or more like a Fuji apple mix or something in there. And really, like, any apple will do. I feel like the tartness of a Granny Smith apple would contrast really well with, like, the cinnamon and sugar vibes. But in general, you can just use any apples you want. I also am contemplating what I'm going to do with these apple skins. Sometimes I've put the apple skins in the pie, but I think I actually want to use these for something else. Like pickled apple skins or something. Like some kind of pickled thing. I'm going to try and experiment with it and tell you how it goes. But for all I know, it could be absolutely disgusting or delicious. I'm not really sure what the outcome's going to be. But I don't see anything wrong with the idea of trying to pickle apple skins. Like soaking them in like maybe lemon juice and salt and stuff. Could be like a slaw, maybe? I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I'm very experimental in the kitchen and I usually wing it and hope it works out. But for all I know, it could be absolutely disgusting. So for whatever reason, I don't really have like a very large level of devotion to the matter. So I guess we'll talk about other variables like finances. I paid all of my bills for the month outside of my insurance and typical grocery bills that I'm going to gather. And I also am going to be taking my mom out for her birthday, so that's going to cost me a little something something. But generally speaking, I'm basically like kind of ahead of the payments for the month and have to not spend a lot of money because I'm also planning to move at some point from this apartment. And I basically just need to have more money saved up. I think I can save at least like a couple grand if I'm really careful with my money, but I have no idea. So I'm just trying to kind of play my hand safely. My shifts at work have been absolutely demolished as a result of the antics that be. I only have like 3 shifts and they're not on busy days. So hopefully I'll make just enough to skirt by and save, and then I'll worry about the rest later. And I can always try and see if anybody wants me to pick up the day of, which is the best time to try and get people to like let you take their shifts, is if they wake up hungover and want somebody to cover for them. Usually you can score a shift or 2. I was gonna work today, but I got the cut. I basically gave my shift to somebody else who then got the cut, and therefore I actually got the cut. But it wasn't gonna be very busy today, so I don't really feel too bad about it. And given that I'm being given at the moment the smallest sections, the most like, you know, tiny tables and things like that, there's no way I would make anything at work because the larger parties are what are going to make up most of this evening's, like, you know, input, at least from what I suspect. But yeah, I'm really happy that I won that wine. I really wanted to win it. I was very, like, devoted to the craft. And like I said, my people, I'm still doing that, you know, thing where I sell literally bottles of wine every shift and specialty cuts every shift, just to prove my managers and my own previously self-imposed perception incorrectly. So there are our apples. And let's get... I did not empty the dishwasher. So we've got our apples over here. I'm gonna just chuck these apple skins up in here and worry about them later because I have to figure out what I want to do with them. I cleaned up the whole kitchen today. I have to organize the bedroom. I have a lot of stuff to do, and I also have to make a to-do list to contact apartment companies or whatever. And just, I've got to figure out a bunch of stuff, financial stuff, the next moneymaker basically as well, whatever. Stuff I can do to, like, make the moolah, if you get what I'm saying. So, I'm just going to slice these apples up. I'm not particularly discriminant or particular with how I cut my apples. I just cut them until they're a cookable force, a manipulatable sum. And usually I'm not really that, like, worried about what's going to go with what. So, yeah. I'll get back to you when I finish this. Alright, so, got the apples, got a pan. This is going to be the best weapon I have when I'm a wife, by the way. All it takes is one swat, and I'll turn my man into a robot. So let's just move on to the next phase, the cooking process. Okay, I have a beautifully organized sum of ingredients right here, and the microphone's right there, so hopefully you can hear me alright. I have no idea if you can, but let's just wing it. Take yo apples, toss them in the pan. It ain't that deep, like the pan. But yeah, get them in there. And I usually just turn it on high. I don't actually have very many high standards other than for turning up my temps. But yeah, I just usually like turn this on, get a little vanilla. Nice little splish splash of vanilla just to cover some of the apples. You can use vanilla bean. I have some, but I'm lazy. Not even just cheap, but lazy. I don't want to bother with that problem. And then I add a little salt as well. I feel like salt belongs in all baking, and when it's excluded, it's sad. So let's put a little bit, just enough to like cover it, like a sprinkling. I'm not going to use all of it, but you always want salt. You always want, you know, vanilla or some other seasoning. And also, cinnamon. It's organic. I love cinnamon. I don't discriminate in regards to the cinnamon. I usually just do enough to like cover the top of the apples, but you can add as much cinnamon as you want. I don't really worry about like if there's too much spice. Usually, now I have overspiced things before, and I do have a big problem with not measuring, but most of the time it works out, so I'm not going to worry about it. And then, of course, the sugar. I love sugar. Sugar loves me. It doesn't, as you can tell, but I love sugar, and that's all that matters. So, I just usually, again, like, I cover the, you know, the main base. I don't like putting too much, but when it comes to a pie, you do want some sugar in there. You can obviously not use the sugar or use way less, or use whatever other garbage you want, Splenda, stevia, whatever. But let's just be honest, nothing beats actual, like, molecules of glucose and fructose combined. We have the queen little mix right here. It is on high. Probably shouldn't be, but that's fine. And then you're just going to cook the water out of the apples. Our burners kind of suck, sorry. So I'm just going to work on this, cook it down on my own time, go get my laundry, and then we'll do phase 3, which is 3 out of 4. It's not really like there are that many things to do for an apple pie. I feel like it's kind of overblown when it comes to pies. But ironically, I actually thought apple pie was one of the most difficult things to make, and or pies were one of the most difficult things to make. Personally, there are so many other difficult desserts that pies are probably one of the most simplistic and forgiving things you can possibly create. The most complex variable is figuring out what you want to mix into the base, and also, like, the actual composition of the dough itself. Everything else is incredibly forgiving. They are very storable, and you can actually, like, not bake your pies, freeze them, and bake them when you want to, or you can bake them, freeze them, and reheat them. They're a very forgiving sort, and you don't have to worry about them going bad that quickly. They do last a while. So, even if you can't finish it, you can always freeze it. Like most desserts, you can get away with freezing it, and it's a pretty forgiving outcome. Alright, so the apples are basically done. I just turned the heat off. And we're going to be reusing the apple bowl, because I'm lazy and don't want to have to clean another bowl after this. I have some Earth Balance butter. This is what I usually use. I also much prefer... Oh, I don't know why I'm screaming over here. We're just going to use butter, salt, a little sugar, and flour. And that's the base for your pie crust. It does not have to be complex. You don't have to put any, like, witch doctor magic in her. She just needs a little bit of sweetness and a little bit of spice and a little bit of something, and then she's all nice, alright? You don't need to get all complicated with it. Those apples are just going to be chill vibing over there. They're on the heat, but I turned the heat off, so they'll probably be fine. The worldly advice is cube the butter. Earth Balance and other butters, you can't really cube. They're kind of, like, sadistic in that regard. So I'm going to try my best, but I think real butter works better. You know, Betty Botter did buy some butter, but when she said that butter was bitter, she went vegan, so that's awkward. Get the butter knife, or whatever you want. I already opened it, but I haven't used it yet, and I'm just gonna, like, try and cube it, but I'm hella lazy when it comes to, like, most of my antics with, like, butter, cubing. I love cubes, though. If you've seen the dice on my channel and all the stuff I talk about, cubes are my favorite shape. So, I don't know why I'm so reluctant to cube butter, of all things. But yeah, you know, Earth Balance isn't that bad. Miyoko's butter tastes way better, in my opinion, than Earth Balance. And is more fun. And it's also pretty much the same price, if not cheaper, on occasion. Like, if you go to Sprouts, everybody disses Sprouts. But I personally find that they have great deals. And especially on some vegan products, you can actually get some decent dairy-free things. Their egg prices are ridiculous, though. Never go there for eggs. I'm just going to kind of, like, slide it off so that you have more of a chunkable cube, some sums, and I'm just going to get these all into the bowl. Pardon not being able to see this super well. I'm going to adjust the camera, and then maybe just put down, like... Let's just see if I can kind of do this. You're going to go on the sink. This might be a horrible idea, but this might also work, so... Okay, maybe this is better. I have no idea. So hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully you can see me. Hopefully you can see the antics. But anyway, we're just gonna get the butter in this bitch. Get her in there. Just get all. You know what? Let's use the whole thing. I don't have parents with me right now. They're not looking. Only God can see my failings. And that's if God exists, because I'm willing to question reality in all capacities. So we have the butter in the bowl. We're gonna do just a couple pinches of sugar, probably a couple tablespoons worth of sugar, and a little bit more for love. And then for salt, I don't know, do about like a teaspoon. And then for flour, basically, you just want enough to make it work. I never measure, but I'd say like 4 to 6 cups, maybe? The plan is basically to make the big bits of butter into little cubicles by basically using the flour as a barrier between your hands and the butter, and then just breaking it down to a point where it's like malleable. You basically want to, after this factoid, be able to kind of put it into like a little ball of sorts. But given that I'm a train wreck, I don't really know. But yeah, that's kind of the dealio dot. You know, you just keep working her until you can't work her anymore. And once you hit this kind of crumbly stage, where, as you can see, the butter is kind of mixed in, somewhat a little bit poorly, with the contents of the flour and whatnot, you can kind of just get your hands in there and work it, and then we'll get our pie crust buttered, and or maybe oiled, because I kind of used all the butter that I had. I do have a little bit left in the fridge, actually. I make a lot of pies for people. Honestly, my dudes, I'm pretty sure this is fine, so what I'm going to do is just use a little bit more of the butter that I have, because I have a used one as well. And then just butter a pie tin. Oh, look at that. And, you know, you just put a little bit of butter on it so that your dealio bops don't do any sticking. And I love baking. I love cooking, but I never use the same recipe twice because I don't measure. So that is a curse and a blessing in disguise. You'll always make something new and amazing, or occasionally something terrible and disgusting. And at the same time, you'll have people be blown away, but as soon as they ask you for the recipe, it never works out. But anyways, yeah. So, it's buttered. She's good. And we're going to take this delicious dealio. And, you know, there are some chunks that are still a little bit buttery, a little bit less so than others, and a little bit more so than others. Which is why I think the cold butter method is kind of like a double-edged sword. Flour my hands a little bit. Flour a little bit of this butter. And what you want to do is, like, kind of make it, like, malleable little ball. I know you're supposed to roll it out. I never do that. Maybe it's bad to not do. But I'm not a professional in any capacity, in any regard. I'm never professional. Hopefully it's good. It might be too buttery. Maybe it won't be buttery enough. Who knows? Just wing it. See where it goes. Okie dokie. So that's the pie. It's pretty even, I would say. I did mold it quite stupidly to the thing. You can always, like, roll it out. I didn't do that. I don't have a rolling pin. And you can also use, like, a jar or something if you have that, but I'm not too worried about it. So I'm going to set this aside for a second. Now, you can flash bake your pie crust, which is usually what I do, but today I don't want to do that, just because I don't want to do that. Flour the board, and then push this down, because this is how we're going to actually make the top. Now, you can do lattice, but I never do lattice, because I'm really lazy. And I don't know how this would hold together for a lattice. I think it would work, but I just don't really bother. And I'm just going to, like, kind of, you know, push it in, knead it down, until I get something that's composite. And if it doesn't really work out, like, I don't really care if the pie is super pretty. We're just here to make tasty food. We're not going to win any beauty contests with this thing. I'm just flouring a jar. I'm going to see if that helps, but yeah, no. Okay, never mind. I thought it would work. It did not work. I tried to use a jar. Forget the jar. It's not worth it. Jars lie. I should have gotten a wooden... I need to buy a wooden rolling pin for this. Alright, so bypassing the whole, like, pie crust that's over here that I'm trying to work on, which I'll get going. She might not look that pretty, not gonna lie. I think I put too much butter, but it's what we get for not measuring, huh? This is the double-edged sword with not measuring. You'll always make something different every time, and sometimes it's just not gonna work out. But you know what? This did work, which is fantastic, and this is done, so that's great. If you can't tell, you know, we've got some, like, delicious golden apples. If you want them more gooey, you can also do, like, cornstarch slurries and then add more sugar, or you can add more honey or some other liquid sugar, but I don't really care that much because also they're, like, wet enough, and also the super buttery pie crust won't pose any issue. So I'm just going to put the whole thing in this bitch. Also, the entire apartment is, like, 80 degrees right now. And I haven't even turned the oven on yet. But But yeah, just pat those little apples down on her. And now we're gonna try, you know what? This is a perfect opportunity to try and do a lattice. Hold up, my people. Alright, well, this is way not a good lattice, but I did my first lattice. Could be worse. It's the first lattice that I've ever done. Not too bad. I'm gonna egg wash this and maybe stop sweating eventually. Alright, so there's the pie. First lattice crust. Not too bad. I just have a couple of egg yolks in here, and this is the only not vegan part about this pie that I refuse to skimp on because it makes the pie look way cuter. And honestly, like, you can call me a heathen that shouldn't be alive because I'm putting eggs on a pie, but I'm doing it, so oops. But yeah, I'm gonna just egg wash this little pie, make her look all nice and eggy. Get that egg on here. Alright, so there's the egg wash on there, and I have leftover egg yolk and a lot of egg white and stuff, but basically this is what we're working with, and then once it's baked, it's going to get all golden brown and cutie pops. So I'm going to throw it in the oven. It's not done preheating, but it doesn't really matter. And once it's done, I'll show you the final result, my people. I need a better camera setup for this. Alright, so she's in the oven, and she's chilling. She's going to be, well, she's not chilling. You know what I mean. So anyways, this is going to be probably like half hour, 45 minutes. Just depends on how long it wants to bake. I'm actually going to put it down to about a 325. Just so that I can make sure the interior is cooked, like the actual crust is cooked, without overcooking the egg on the exterior. I'm going to clean up and also do some laundry, and then I'll get back to you people and show you the final results. And I definitely need to make sure I invest in a proper recording setup, because I have to full-heartedly admit that putting a laptop on a ledge in a kitchen is giving me like a massive level of stress and anxiety in the kitchen. Yeah, having a laptop in the kitchen is pretty much sacrilegious at this point. But whatever. Anyways, I'm going to show you the final results in a little bit, and I'm going to clean up and maybe stop sweating my ass off. I don't know yet. Alrighty, my people. I was recording another video during the same time I was working on this video, so this is why we've changed the setup a little bit. But this is the pie. How are you liking it, my dudes? I think it's a pretty decent looking pie. The first lattice I've ever done. Smells pretty good. Looks pretty nice. Anyways, that was just the pie. I hope y'all enjoyed. So thank you so much for watching, my dudes. And also, I noticed our channel's growing, so that's also super cool. Thank you for subscribing, and I will see you when I see you next. Probably tomorrow. Anyways, that was the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Slater.